trustworthy in a world that so often is not? What if we could live this way? What if we could be open and vulnerable like the sand to the imprints of others, yet not let them mark us and shape us forever? Each day we would settle again into an easy calm, refreshed and ready for the world. All trace of hurt, resentment, fear and frustration obliterated, swept far away from us, out past the horizon.
People have expressed very deeply their connection to their special blue and green spaces in West Coast that are really very close to their hearts. That really pleases me because it shows me that they are thinking more deeply about place and what they mean to them.
Cross the footbridge, wait for my breath to catch up. Consider the lights skirting the tussocks, the gathering clouds, the winter hush. Beneath me the creek, ribboning through the muddy paddocks, widening at the Melaleuca, the paperbark thickets, its measured approach, wider as it greets the mouth, slowly, patiently, making its way back to the ocean.
Coastal Connections has revealed that people love the natural world. It's shown that Bass Coast is rich in beauty, in blue and green spaces, and that many people have chosen to live here because of that. Most of all, the project has revealed that blue and green places are very important for people's mental health and well-being. People described a sense of belonging, of connection, a calmness that comes when you spend time in these places.
My special place is Coronella. I love the peace, I love the solitude, I love the water birds. I'm endlessly entertained by watching what the birds do. They're just wonderful and exciting. I love the fresh, clean air, so different from the city. Every time of the day it'll be different because of the way the light plays through the greenery and the way the wind moves as it's playing as well, whether it's gentle or, whether it's strong.
My favourite place is Norseman's Beach in Coronet Bay. It's a more wild, more close to nature. It feels more changeable to me than those sort of beaches, your desert island type beach. It changes, and that's what I like about it. I think it's never the same beach twice.
My son-in-law's mother, who's Indian, she came here a few years ago, and she really amazed me when she said to me, this is the first place she'd ever been in her entire life where she couldn't hear anything but the sounds of nature. And that really made me stop even more so and listen. Listen to the wind and listening to the different voices of the birds.
There is something special about a beach, I think, about that massive body of water, particularly when you see it and there's not a ripple on it. I don't know, our bodies are something like 60% water. Maybe that's why we are so affected by water, we are so drawn to beaches. To see that massive body of water calm and still is something really special. It's really quite mystical.
Something about water, it's almost hard to describe, but it brings a tranquility into your life that even though that you can have that, like if you're just out in the forest, for instance, and you've got that stillness and silence, and I think that's a great part of it. You've got to have that stillness and silence and that listening to nature. But it just does something to your inner self.
Another thing that Buddhists talk about is taking the self for a walk. You can actually walk on the beach without using your mind, just noticing your footsteps, noticing what's around you, listening to the sounds without actually thinking. And often that's what I can do on the beach, and I can't always do it in other settings. So it makes it a little bit easier to take myself for a walk without my actual constant thoughts interfering.
We really spruik here at Bass Coast that the environment is our economy, but it's so true. People don't come to beautiful Phillip Island for our roads and our shopping centres. They come for the environment, the beaches and the nature walks and the parks.
My special place is in the bush, under a gum tree. I can walk out that gate and it's just there. And then I can just follow the track. And as you're doing that, you know, the trees open up to the sky. It's just so peaceful. It's just a beautiful place to be.
Well, this is a place that's only a few kilometres from our place. We had no idea it was here in the way it's here, but it didn't know we had a forest, a grass tree forest. Walking along with Hartley, and he said, look up. And I looked up, and here is the most magnificent sight. There were huge white spikes on either side of the fence separating the sand mine and the nature reserve, and I just couldn't work out what I was looking at. I had to blink, and then I realised that it was something that I'd never seen before, and all I could think of was it's a huge giant warehouse full of these great white spikes.
As I began going more and more into the bush, it sort of becomes part of you. You feel as though you're one with it. You know, you feel like you're just in it. It's in you when you're in it. It's allowed me to become more reflective. It allows you to go deep within. Well, just listening to the bush, you internalise it. It sort of becomes, it becomes part of you, really.
You really relate to nature. There's this sense too that the Aborigines were here before us. The first peoples were here. This area is only about 7 or 9 kilometres from where George Bass landed in his little boat. And some of these bigger trees, but I mean it's at least a couple of 100 years old, and George Bass was here in 1798.
I think it's had that effect on me, and it's had a very therapeutic effect on my physical health as well. I have become more well over the last 20 years than I had been for the previous 20 years. I think that has taught me to be patient, to be in the now.
You just walk up and you just don't want to go away because there is something really, really precious there. I think it takes me right back to the roots of who we are, because we just love this sense of freedom and going back to not seeing human beings, just to think that we're part of nature.
I think as humans we're hardwired to seek out the blue and green places. When we go on holidays we sort of always escape the grey urban environment and seek out the blue of the seaside or the green of the countryside or the mountains.
I make plans to know her more completely. She sparkles at night. Millions of phosphorescent reminders that rekindle the spark within. As I trace her shifting boundary and sink into her depths, I realise she is truly boundless. Her secrets are not mine to know. This won't stop me coming back, ready and waiting for what she chooses to share.
blue and green spaces matter very, very much to me. And I think living on Phillip Island, we have that unique ability to experience seascape and landscapes. And I guess too because having the privilege of caring for part of Malau and the land, I'm witnessing that transforming landscape every morning that I wake up. And yet I can just drive a little way and I can see the sea landscape and hear it and feel it and listen to it. So they are very precious to me, and I know to a lot of other people who live here and chosen to live here, and people who visit.
My special place is South Point Lookout at Summerlands, and it's just so relaxing. In summer it's calming, in winter it's more angry. It's got a feeling, it's got an absolute feeling of something which is, I think, connected to the environment, to nature. It's just beautiful.
I've been on Phillip Island for 20 years and living in Surf Beach for 10 years. And I'm always looking at possible subjects that will make paintings. So I'm looking at the patterns where the sea touches the land. And it's always different, and sometimes exceedingly beautiful, and sometimes so beautiful that it's impossible to paint.
My special place is Red Rocks Beach. I think it's a place of wonder. It's a bay beach, so it's quite smooth, but it's always full of unexpected things. For me, it's a place of wonder and curiosity and imagination, just looking out at the water and thinking, oh, what could be underneath that smooth surface?
My special place is Cape Woolamai. It's quite a large headland, and it's magnificent. It's just awe-inspiring. Sometimes you can see nothing but fog and mist, so you're standing on the edge of a cliff and it's just oblivion, and other times you can see right out to Bass Strait.
This island and the Bass Coast itself it's got an atmosphere, it's got a special feeling. It's a feeling of calmness, peacefulness. Even though a lot of people are busy around you, it's still peaceful. I feel like when I'm out there, it's the place I need to be and the place I should be at that time. It makes any problems insignificant.
Nature affects me always. When I think of what mankind has done to nature, it depresses me. And when I talk to people who don't respect nature, it depresses me. I always feel more alive when I'm in a place where I know people. I feel calmer, I feel more inspired.
I feel like when I'm in the natural world, I'm suddenly much more curious, and I'm very interested in being fairly quiet and still and just observing, and I feel quite joyful. It's one of the times I genuinely feel really joyful and I lose track of time. I think that, yeah, it's about partly being a witness and partly then somehow just unwittingly finding yourself participating in this joyful dimension of the world.
It evokes in me this sort of longing, it's like a deep sense of belonging to the land or to the earth, to Mother Earth, or to be part of it.
We all as humans need to rethink what our place in the world, that we are one species, that happens to be dominant at the moment for a short period of time in the history of the earth, and that all other species have a right to exist, and not only a right to exist, but for ourselves as humans, we gain so much by having this rich diversity.
My local beach is Harmer's Haven, which we always call Harmer's. It's wild, gentle, exhilarating, depending. Winter is so dramatic. We are so extraordinarily blessed down here to have those wild places. So there's something about the sea, the rocks, the sand dunes, and it does put things into perspective. I've known it now for almost 25 years. So much a part of me now. And how you feel when you go there depends on your mood when you go and the mood of the beach. Full of memories for me now as well, personal memories of course, but it's also, there are layers of meaning on that beach for me. To look into a little rock pool, there are big rock pools and then there are little rock pools perfectly round, just that big, and inside, if you crouch down and look in, there's a whole world in there. You know, there'll be 100 different sorts of shell there, and there are crabs, and there are anemones and limpets. And that sense of world within world within world. You're certainly awestruck by it, and that's what brings the sense of perspective, I suppose, about our lives, and knowing we're just a bit of a blip and it will go on. The people I know who live in this place are the most contented people I have ever met, and I think it's because we live so close to nature. They're not ambitious, they can work in the same job for 50 years because their contentment comes from a different source. It comes from being so involved in nature. I think they're very sane, haven't given up that blind ambition. I think they're also very creative people. I know so many musicians, so many artists, so many writers, and I think that comes from that close association with, you know, being surrounded by wild places. And you come back exhilarated and you just turn around for that last look at it and you're just trying to absorb it, you know, trying to hold on to it, and you sort of can.
Shack Bay is a cove in the Bunyurong Coastal Reserve and Marine National Park. It got its name because of the shacks that were built there during the 1930s and 40s. And the most amazing panorama opens before you. There's a sweep of sand, the dark green scrub, towering cliffs lead the eye towards Eagle's Nest. It's different every time, but it's always the same, and I always nearly trip going down the stairs because I just can't stop looking at it, loving it.
And the waves come crashing down.
My special place is Fraggle Rock, otherwise known as Eagle's Nest. A pure description would be that it's a leftover rocky outcrop on the end of a little peninsula, but in actual fact I think it's a mystical place when you walk around that you can see all kinds of carvings and leftover things that existed thousands of years ago, which, you know, when you look at them in your imagination, you might imagine that you were there at the time when these things were first set in the rock. But it's a pretty place. It looks out onto the ocean. You've got the waves lapping all the time, which are kind of rhythmic music. It's a wonderful place. I love walking on the beach just near it.
And the ocean meets an ancient shore.
When I get there, I feel like I've come home. I don't have to be anything when I'm there. I just have to sit and be nourished.
This place called the Bonneronco.
I guess the first connection is to the peaceful nature of the place, and that's a solid. The other connection, of course, is the lovely time we had here with our children when they were quite little, and their imagination around that rock. And so the Fraggle Rock thing, when I see it, I cannot see the place without thinking of my younger children.
Every time I go there, I receive a calming. It evaporates all of the stress.
It's my serenity, this place that I call my home.
I have painted Eagle's Nest from different directions well over 50 times. The thing that fascinates me so much about it as an artist is that I can go there now and the sun is out, and it will present a different face than what it will later on this afternoon. A different part of its personality comes out, and because my training is in tonal realism, the shadows and highlights become really important, and that rock just gives it to me in bucket loads.
I love the symbolism that's at Shack Bay. It's like you can see the wide world, but for a time you're sheltered from it. You know your problems and your responsibilities still exist, but for a time you get to catch your breath and to see them from a different perspective.
My special place is Screw Creek Footbridge at winter. And as I'm approaching it, it's more, not so much anticipation as a feeling of settling down. So I'm usually so busy and rushed and my mind is raging ahead, and then as I'm running along this section, particularly the curve that comes around to the footbridge, and I'm running through the tussocks and I'm going along the boardwalk, and then I feel everything just kind of go, okay. You know, there's just a bit of space, and it's that sense of almost settling into the landscape.
I've really come to love the inlet over the years, and it's a big part of my life and a big part of my sense of place and sense of where I am, who I am, and what I do in the world. There's a sense of wildness, a dynamic nature that is untamable and just full of life. We think we know it, and we continually find out new things about it, and it's I think that has changed how I feel about place, and I can really spend more and more time in the same places at the inlet and really still be nourished by that without needing a sense of I need a new place, I need to go somewhere, but really just be in that place at that moment and see what is happening around me.
My favourite place, I think, that I've discovered is the Big Tree, which is on Townsend Bluff, just past the Screw Creek Walk, the nature walk. The sheer size of it was just like, oh my God. And also, I'm really not used to seeing a gum tree, perhaps, or a eucalypt in those colours either. It's just this golden colour that seems to just glow. Yeah, I was very, very in awe of it the first time that I saw it. And I liked the fact that You know, it was an adventure to get there, sort of thing. So I think it did bring up that feeling of childhood for me, just coming across something that was, I guess, bigger than myself. And it still does every time I go there. And of course, now that I know that it exists, there's that little bit of joyous anticipation because, oh, I'm going to go there today.
What it does, that idea of giving your thoughts some space and having that separation from them, and doing that, I think nature is a great kind of instigator of bringing that out. It gives you a chance to realise that maybe what you're thinking about is not that important. Like maybe what you're worrying about is not that important in the you know, the greater scope of things. And I think that's a really valid thing for mental health, to be able to step back and look with a little bit of separation from your thoughts is a gift.
But the inlets provided a different avenue, a more peaceful, quiet avenue where I can go down there, and it kind of is a centering force where it just brings me to presence by having my toes in the water or watching the incoming tide move through all the grooves and the sands, and just being there. All the stuff happening in the world, in your life, that will sort of build up, I guess. And when you immerse yourself in water or the wind, or you see 10,000 soldier crabs scurrying along the inlet, you're kind of just like, oh yeah, okay, here we are. This is what's happening. And we can just move through everything else with a bit more ease.
Coming to this place awakens a sense of wonder, invites a welcome sort of not knowing. And yet there's something else, something that arises and can almost be grasped, but not quite. Could it be a kind of remembering?
I've learned a lot from First Australians and their relationship with the natural world. And, you know, they got it right. And their understanding of, you know, living on country and respecting it and loving country.
If people sit and connect to their special blue and green places, sit and listen, walk on country with bare feet, and listen to what country is telling you. It's really important for people to return to their special places time and time again, to really connect to country. The most important thing is that you care for country, and country will care for you.